Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to a retro RPG, or this week, a retro board game. Because at the end of another week, and the end of another poll, we've got a winner with Hunter Deadly Prey from White Wolf Studios. Now I'll cover that on the desktop in a wee second. And I'll be back at the end of the video as usual, with some other poll related stuff and some other channel related stuff. But just a wee reminder that if you'd like to help the channel out, or you'd like to see these videos a week early, then there's a Patreon in the description down below that you can click on, and that'd be very much appreciated. So I hope to see you at the end of the video. So, this is Hunter Deadly Prey. Now it's a board game based on the rebooted World of Darkness, what's now known as the Chronicles of Darkness series. So, where there had been Vampire the Masquerade, they'd brought out Vampire the Requiem. Instead of Werewolf the Apocalypse, there was Werewolf the Forsaken. And one of the core games was Hunter the Vigil, which was about people who hunt for creatures in the World of Darkness. Now this board game is based around cooperative play, or somewhat cooperative. It can be competitive as well. But one player takes part of the monster, and the other players take part of hunters. And they're trying to gain control of sections of the city which will give them advantages, which will then lead them to be able to attack the monster. The monster likewise is trying to deprive them of the power which will beat it first, because they don't know what monster they're up against until they finally face it. But let's have a look at the back of the box. So, Hunter Deadly Prey, a deadly game. Monsters exist in our world, lurking under cover of darkness, hiding their depredations behind a veil of lies. You are an ordinary person, but you have discovered that creatures prey upon us. No one else believes you. No one else will help you. Now you search the city for supernatural secrets, gathering weapons, tools, and lore in your personal crusade. You might set out to destroy monsters, save their souls, and understand them in the name of science, or to claim their arcane power for your own. Regardless of your calling, you defy the creatures of the night. You are Hunter. Hunter Deadly Prey is a horror strategy game for 3 to 5 players. One player assumes the role of the monster, protecting its unnatural existence. Anywhere from 2 to 4 other players are hunters, who seek to defeat the creature. But creatures are not the only threats hunters face. Their own goals and methods clash, making them as dangerous to each other as they are to the supernatural. The game includes 12 monsters to choose from to defy hunters, 100 city cards, monstrous secrets waiting to be uncovered, 75 arsenal and influence cards, the dirty tricks that hunters and the monsters play, 25 hardship cards, the penalties hunters pay for becoming obsessed with the supernatural. It's for 3 to 5 players, ages 10 and older, averaging 60 to 90 minutes playing time. And it says warning choking hazard. Now opening up the box. First of all, I have to comment that the artwork on the cover is very stylish, but it's not very good. It looks kind of photoshopped to me. The lines of script off a parchment here overlaid. It looks like there are other pictures which have been photoshopped together. Now inside, we have the instruction book. We have a board indicating daytime and nighttime. So the start of the city and what phase of the day it is, because monsters are more powerful at night. Now, we've got these cards for the hunters. To go through them, you can be an academic, you can be a cop, you can be a criminal, you can be a doctor, a hacker, a journalist, an occultist, a government agent, a scientist, a soldier, a vagrant, or a religious leader. I'll put the band back on them. And then also we've got the selection of monsters. We have warlocks, feral vampires, poltergeists, werewolves, of course, dark overlords, body snatchers, mad scientists, horrific night stalkers, avenging spirits, necromancers, blood witches, and voodoo masters. and each one of them has special abilities. So the Voodoo Master Spirit Summoning. Spend 1 Occult Mastery point to transpose any 2 face-down city cards in the pyramid or on the tracker, but not between pyramid and tracker. There can be no willpower, white or red, on the cards affected. This power can be used only once per turn. Likewise, I will tidy those up later. We've got city cards. Now these are the general city cards, and they have various things which you can find in the city. So, penitent creature. You have found a creature who seeks absolution for her crimes. She can be a font of information about the creatures of the night. And it gives you advantages to the various aspects here. So destruction, scientific study, absolution, or occult mastery. Or you found a holy symbol, or your devotion to a religion is unflagging. And as you capture these on the city, you gain the advantages. Child predator, amid your efforts to face the evils corrupting the world, you encounter the humankind who targets children. Bad cop, private collections. We've got all of those. And then we've got the absolution ones. So a different type of city card, where you can get a sawed-off shotgun, a Molotov cocktail, a chainsaw, extra ammo. You can visit the Army-Navy store, great source of equipment. The university. These are all advantages you can get to power up. Now, because the monsters tend to be weak against one of these, they will be trying to deprive you of these and take the cards back. Because when you finally get to them, you will want to have as many of those as possible. Now, when you're laying out the game, you shuffle all these cards together, and then you lay out a line of 6 cards, a line of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you have to get from the bottom of the pile, or the bottom of the pyramid, to the top in a straight line. Now, the monster can deprive you of that by breaking your chain, and you will have to find a new path or try and recapture the one that they've taken from you. And it's only when you finally get to the top of the pyramid that you face the monster and you discover what they are. Now, along the way, you can get setbacks. Play this card on another hunter. He can't play any arsenal cards for the remainder of the current turn. You can still discard them for willpower. Keep this card nearby as a reminder of its effect. Empathy. Play this card to add 3 points or 1 die to an attempt to control an absolution city card. This does not apply against minions. Tipped off. Gain extra card when you roll against a minion card. Survival instinct. Anathema. Undaunted. All of those. And then we've got 2 smaller stacks, hardships and influence. So you've got hardships, you lose your job. Choose a city card that you control on one of the bottom 2 rows. The token value on that card is lowered by 1. Abandoned by spouse, parking ticket, resentful children, nagging injury. And the influence ones are for the monster. Subtle warnings. Play this card on a single hunter. You cannot play any arsenal cards for the remainder of the current turn. Zombies. Play this card on a single hunter. Target cannot control a new city card using destruction for the remainder of this current phase. Disease exposure. Possession. Blackmail. And then beneath here, at the bottom, we've got the various tokens to be used. And then we've got a summary of play cards for each of the players, or a couple of them. And it's that. Now, the game itself, I've heard, is fairly simplistic. Because there's not a lot to it. You're taking the cards, you're rolling dice, and they're D10s which are included in them. I've taken them out and used them elsewhere. But from what I've heard, if you make a story of it, so you are meeting a penitent creature, so you tell the story of how your character meets them, and then the monster sends you subtle warnings, so it weaves that into the storyline as well. The game can be very, very good. But without that extra, it's apparently a very simplistic game. Now, Looking through the instructions, they are quite complex. There are 16 pages of instructions here, which seems a lot for a board game, I have to say. But we've got the components, talks about the different types of tokens you can add to the cards to power them up as you can control the city. You're building your pyramid, as I said before, the turn structure. There's initiative sequences, so who has the highest willpower goes first. You've got city card ratings, the further up the more that they're worth, etc, etc. With the top card being the most powerful. And that's it. We've got stuff about the monster schemes, how they meddle, the monster's power, attacking city cards, attack limitations, and when you finally confront the monster. It's quite a complex game. As I said, I've heard that if you weave a story into it, it can become very, very interesting. But an hour and a half is a long play time. And without that element, it apparently can be really quite boring. Now, I don't know if it's any indication of what people thought of the game. But if you look on YouTube, you will find that this is pretty much the only video on this game. There is nobody else talking about Hunted Deadly Prey. Also, there's very little online about it. Doing a Google search, I found a couple of reviews, which I read through, and people have their opinions. What I was really hoping was for somebody to briefly go over how to play it so I could explain it in far more detail. But there doesn't seem to be much more to it than I've explained. You're rolling dice to take the cards to build your line from top to bottom. It reminds me of a quiz show that they had over here in the UK called Blockbusters, where you had to get a line across the board in a certain direction, top to bottom or left to right, depending on which player you were, while blocking the other player. It's very much like a World of Darkness or Chronicles of Darkness version of Blockbusters to me. So that was Hunted Deadly Prey, and that won the vote with 28% of the vote. Only very slightly ahead of Unknown Armies 2nd Edition on 26% of the vote, and that was very slightly ahead of Sovereign Stone on 24% of the vote, with Sorcerer and Eorus Essence lagging behind on 13% and 9% respectively. Now that was a very surprise one because it's a board game and I expected the RPGs to do a lot better. And it also turned out totally contrary to what I wanted, because after putting up the poll last week, in case it won, I did a bunch of reading up on Eorus Essence, and I found out so many interesting things about it that I really wanted to do a video on it, so I was so sad that it came in last with only 9%. But as usual, they're all cleared out and we've got a fresh set in the poll. For the last time for a while, which I'll come on to in the channel-related news. So, we've got a fresh set and we're back to the bottom shelf of this bookcase, and we've got Chromebook 3 for Cyberpunk 2020. Now, I've covered the first two Chromebooks before, and they did continue evolving from being very stylish to being more equipment books, but including way more technical stuff. So it'd be interesting to see how they've evolved. Denizens of Earthdawn Volume 1, covering some of the species out of Earthdawn, which is a very interesting selection of species, and Earthdawn is something I've not covered in about a year, so it'd be nice to get back to it. We've got the Psyonix Handbook for Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition. Now I've covered the 2nd edition Psyonix Handbook. It'd be nice to see how it evolved and how they changed it. It came out in 2001, so only very shortly after the core rulebooks had come out, only a couple of years. So very closely tied into how 3rd edition was evolving. We've got the Neo-Anarchist Guide to Real Life for Shadowrun from 1992. It's the oldest one in this selection of games, and it's got a lot of content from Nigel D. Findlay, who I've commented before is one of my favourite authors who was sadly taken from us at the age of only 35. So I'd love to have a look through that for you. And finally, we've got Marienburg Sold Down the River for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Now, it was one of the Hog's Head sourcebooks, and it came out in 1999 for 1st edition Warhammer. And it's one of the ones which wasn't a reprint. This was all new material. So that'd be pretty interesting to look through. Now, as I said, on channel-related stuff, this is going to be the last poll for a while. Because during June and July, I'm going to be away from home a number of weekends, and it's the weekends I record these videos. So I'm going to have to slot them in earlier in the week, so I won't be able to have the polls. So the polls are going to go on a break for the month of June. They'll be coming back in early July. And in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover a lot of the role-playing games which have been in the polls and have failed to win, which are main rule books. So things like Sovereign Stone, Sorcerer, these will all get videos over the next few weeks, because that allows me to easily know what I'm doing and to do a rules breakdown for the Friday video, because I just won't have time to do anything more. So June's going to be a bit of an autopilot where I'm just getting through these videos as mechanically as possible to keep them coming out. But in July we'll be back to normal. We'll start the polls up again on the second shelf there, and we will see how things go. Anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough as usual, so thank you very, very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.